The night Selena Marisol downloaded that dating app, she never thought her life would change forever. She was curled up on her small bed in Kingston, headphones blasting old reggae songs, when her fingers swiped right on a man whose profile looked like a storm waiting to happen. His name was Jin Woo Kong, a tall Korean man with sharp jawlines, eyes like a predator, and tattoos that crawled up his arms and neck like secrets carved into his skin. He wasn't smiling in any picture, but somehow, Selena felt his silence speak louder than 100 poems. She thought to herself, he looks dangerous, but maybe danger is what I need. At 26, Selena's life had been a quiet rhythm. Born to a Caribbean mother and a fisherman father, she grew up around the sea, markets, and colorful music. But deep inside, she craved something bigger, something wilder. Jin Woo's profile promised exactly that. When he messaged her first, she nearly dropped her phone. "You're beautiful. When can we meet?" His words were short, commanding, but laced with a charm she couldn't resist. Within weeks, Selena was on a plane to Seoul, her heart racing, her head filled with dreams of love and luxury. The first meeting felt like magic. Jin Woo stood at the airport in a black leather jacket, tattoos peeking from his collar. The moment his eyes locked on Selena, he reached for her hand and kissed it like a gentleman out of a movie. Cameras flashed. Paparazzi had followed him there, though Selena didn't know who he truly was yet. "Don't be afraid," he whispered, guiding her past the flashing lights. "You're mine now." Those words, instead of scaring her, melted her heart. She thought she had found the kind of man who would protect her against the world. Within 3 months, they were married in one of Seoul's most luxurious hotels. Selena wore a gown of pearls and lace, her caramel skin glowing under the chandeliers. Everyone online called her the Caribbean queen who captured the mafia boss. News outlets splashed her pictures everywhere. Young women admired her, envied her, dreamed of being in her place. But behind the shimmering curtains, reality was sharper than broken glass. Their first night in the mansion was nothing like the fairy tale Selena imagined. Jin Woo barely spoke to her. He spent hours locked in his office, chain-smoking, talking in low voices on the phone with men who looked more like assassins than business partners. When Selena knocked on his door to bring him dinner, he snapped, "Don't disturb me." Her heart sank. She thought maybe he was just stressed, maybe marriage would take time. But the days turned into weeks, and Jin Woo's coldness grew like winter that never ended. Worse still, Selena began noticing the presence of another woman. Minji Park, a tall, glamorous Korean woman who walked with her chin high, her lips painted blood red, her aura dripping with arrogance. She was always around Jin Woo, at business dinners, private parties, even charity galas. Selena thought it was strange, but when she asked Jin Woo, he only replied with irritation. "She's from an important family. Don't embarrass me by being jealous." Selena stayed quiet, but inside, her spirit was cracking. How could she be both a wife and a stranger in her own home? Things grew worse when Madame Kong, Jin Woo's mother, arrived. She was an elegant woman in her 60s, draped in silk and diamonds, her hair styled perfectly. But the way she looked at Selena was sharper than knives. "Pretty face?" Madame Kong said the first day, her tone dripping with disdain. "But do you know how to be a real Korean wife? Or will you shame us in front of society?" Selena forced a smile. "I'll do my best, Yomioni." But Madame Kong laughed. "Your best won't be enough." From that day, Selena realized she wasn't just fighting for Jin Woo's love. She was fighting for her survival in a house that wanted her gone. One night, Selena prepared a Caribbean dinner, jerk chicken with rice and peas, hoping Jin Woo would finally sit with her. She waited in the grand dining hall, candles lit, the smell of spices filling the air. When Jin Woo arrived, Minji was at his side, laughing softly, her hand brushing his arm. Selena's chest tightened. "I cooked for us," Selena said gently, but Jin Woo barely looked at her. He pulled out a chair for Minji instead, and together they sat, whispering and smiling like lovers. Selena's hand trembled as she set a plate before him. Instead of tasting it, he pushed it away. "Stop trying so hard," he muttered. "You'll never be her." The words sliced through her heart. Minji smirked, sipping her wine. Some women marry above their level and think they belong. Tears burned Selena's eyes, but she swallowed them. That night, she curled in bed alone, wondering if love was supposed to feel like chains. Days later, Selena overheard a conversation that shattered her world. Jinwoo was in his office with Minji and Madame Kong. "This marriage is just business," Madame Kong said firmly. "Foreign investors like her image. Once the contracts are sealed, she'll be irrelevant." Minji chuckled. "Irrelevant? She already is. Jinwoo doesn't love her. He only loves me." Selena's knees buckled. The truth hit her harder than any slap. She wasn't a wife. She was a pawn. But deep inside her, something began to burn. Not just pain, but fire. She looked at herself in the mirror that night, her curly Caribbean hair falling over her shoulders, her eyes swollen from crying. She whispered to her reflection, "They think I'm weak. They think I'm nothing. But they don't know who I am." And for the first time since stepping into that mansion, Selena promised herself she would fight. The morning sun barely touched the cold marble floors of the Kong mansion when Selena's nightmare deepened. She had spent the night tossing and turning, Jinwoo nowhere to be found. When she finally gathered the courage to step into the dining hall, she was greeted not with warmth, but with icy stares. At the head of the table sat Madame Kong, regal in a silk hanbok of emerald and gold. Beside her, like a queen on her throne, was Minji Park, the woman who carried herself as though she were the true wife of Jinwoo. Selena froze in the doorway. Why is Minji here so early? She wondered. She hadn't even had the chance to greet her husband. Yet his mistress was already sipping tea in his mother's company. "Finally, the foreigner joins us," Madame Kong said, her lips curling. "Did you sleep well alone?" The words stabbed deep, and Minji's soft laugh twisted the knife further. Selena clenched her hands behind her back, forcing her voice to remain calm. "I'm sorry I'm late. I'll have breakfast prepared." But Madame Kong raised a hand sharply. "Don't bother. Minji has already taken care of everything." Selena's eyes darted to the table. It was covered with elegant Korean dishes. Kimchi, bulgogi, side plates arranged neatly. Dishes Selena had been trying to learn to cook but never quite perfected. Now here was Minji, flaunting her skill, proving herself the better woman. "Jinwoo likes when his food is prepared properly," Minji added smugly, sipping from her porcelain cup. "It takes more than spices and hot peppers to please a man like him." The insult stung. Selena's Caribbean cooking had been mocked before, but hearing it here, in the house where she was supposed to be respected, made her feel small. Still, she swallowed her pride and smiled faintly. "I'm sure Jinwoo appreciates the effort," she said. "Of course he does," Madame Kong cut in sharply. "He needs a woman who understands his world, not one who embarrasses him with loud laughter and uncultured ways." Selena's throat tightened. For the first time, she realized they weren't just trying to make her uncomfortable. They were trying to erase her. Later that afternoon, Selena found herself in the garden, watering orchids she didn't care for, when Jinwoo appeared. His expression was unreadable, his tattooed arms folded across his chest. "I heard you argued with my mother this morning," he said flatly. Selena spun to face him, shocked. "Argued? I didn't argue, Jinwoo. I was only—" "Do not raise your voice," he interrupted coldly. "Minji told me you disrespected her. Is that how you repay my kindness?" Selena's chest heaved. Kindness? She wanted to scream, but the sight of his dark, narrowed eyes silenced her. "I only wanted to help," she whispered. Jinwoo leaned closer, his voice like ice. "Then learn your place. Do not anger my mother. Do not insult Minji. If you embarrass me again, you will regret it." His words hit harder than a slap. Selena watched him walk away, her heart breaking, her love for his tattoos now seeming like shackles around her soul. That evening, the humiliation reached a new height. A gala was held in honor of Jinwoo's latest business deal. The mansion glowed with golden lights, music filled the air, and powerful men and women from across Seoul arrived in glittering gowns and suits. Selena, dressed in a sleek silver gown, thought perhaps tonight she could prove herself. Maybe if she walked by Jinwoo's side, smiled gracefully, and spoke politely, people would see her worth. But as she descended the grand staircase, all eyes turned to her, not in admiration, but in curiosity. Whispers filled the hall. That's the foreign wife? She doesn't belong here. Why would Jinwoo marry her when Minji is right there? Selena's hands trembled as she clutched the railing. Then she saw it. Jinwoo at the center of the room, Minji beside him, their hands brushing, their laughter soft and intimate. He hadn't even waited for her. She forced herself to walk forward, to stand tall. But when she approached him, Jinwoo didn't take her arm. He didn't even look at her. "Selena," he muttered, as if her presence was an inconvenience. "Sit. Don't make a scene." The humiliation burned hotter than fire. But Selena sat. She watched as Jinwoo raised a glass with Minji, watched as Madame Kong smiled approvingly, watched as the crowd whispered louder. Her stomach churned. She wanted to run, but she stayed, swallowing her tears, until the night ended and the last guest was gone. When Selena finally entered their bedroom, Jinwoo was already inside, unbuttoning his shirt. She gathered her courage and spoke. "Jinwoo, why do you let them treat me this way? I'm your wife. Don't I deserve your respect?" His head snapped toward her, his eyes cold. "You are my wife because it benefits me," he said harshly. "Foreign investors love this marriage. It makes me look powerful, modern. But don't confuse that with love." Selena gasped, her chest aching. "So, everything between us, it was never real?" Jinwoo stepped closer, his face inches from hers. "You were a good image, Selena, but you will never be Minji. Do not ask for more than I give you." The truth shattered her heart into 1,000 pieces. She stumbled back, tears spilling down her cheeks. But Jinwoo turned away, lying down in bed as though her pain meant nothing. Selena stood frozen, her silver gown still glittering in the dim light, her soul drowning in betrayal. That night, she dreamed of home, the Caribbean waves, the smell of coconut oil in her hair, the laughter of her cousins at the beach. For the first time since arriving in Seoul, she wanted to go back. But when she woke, a new thought burned inside her. If they want me weak, they will be surprised. I may be alone, but I will not be broken. Selena wiped her tears, stood tall before the mirror, and whispered to her reflection. "This is not the end of me. It's only the beginning." The Kong mansion looked perfect from the outside. To the world, it was a palace. Tall gates, golden lights, polished marble, chandeliers that dripped like ice from the ceilings. But inside, for Selena Marisol, it was nothing but a cage. Each day blurred into the next. Jinwoo no longer pretended to hide his cruelty. He snapped at her in front of servants, mocked her accent, even shoved her aside when she dared to question him. One morning, Selena entered the grand hall carrying a tray of tea. Jinwoo and Minji were seated close together on the velvet sofa, whispering and laughing. The sight tore at her heart, but she forced a smile. "I made tea," she said softly, placing the tray on the table. Jinwoo didn't even glance at her. Instead, Minji reached out, brushing his tattooed arm with her manicured fingers. "She's trying so hard," Minji sneered. "It's almost pitiful." Selena's breath caught. Before she could respond, Jinwoo snapped, "Get out. You're embarrassing me." Her hands trembled. The tray rattled. Then, without warning, Jinwoo slammed the cup against the table so hard it shattered. Hot tea splashed across Selena's wrist, burning her skin. She gasped in pain, clutching her arm. But Jinwoo's eyes were ice. Clumsy. Useless. Selena fled the room, her tears mixing with the sting of the burn. That night, she lay curled in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering how love had turned into this nightmare. The following week, Madame Kong struck with venom of her own. Selena entered the kitchen to find the older woman inspecting her cooking. A pot of curry chicken simmered on the stove, filling the air with the rich aroma of spices from her childhood. "What is this?" Madame Kong scoffed, peering into the pot. "It's a Caribbean dish," Selena explained nervously. "Something I grew up eating. I thought." "Stop." Madame Kang's voice was sharp. "This is Korea. My son does not need your island food. He needs tradition, respect, and a woman who understands our ways." Not this nonsense. Selina swallowed her words, her pride crumbling. Madame Kong wasn't finished. You think because you wear his ring you belong here? You were a trend, nothing more. A colorful distraction for the cameras. But women like you don't last. Minji is his future. You are just temporary. The words struck harder than any slap. Selina gripped the edge of the counter to steady herself, her nails digging into the wood. But when she looked up, Madame Kong was already walking away, her silk dress swaying as though she had won a battle. By the end of that month, Selina's body carried more than just bruises, carried a secret she hadn't expected. She had been feeling weak, dizzy, her stomach unsettled. First, she thought it was stress. But when the dizziness grew worse, she visited the family doctor quietly. The doctor smiled warmly after the examination. "Congratulations, Mrs. Kong. You're expecting." Selina froze. Her heart raced, her palms sweating. A baby. A piece of her and Jinwoo. For a brief, fragile moment, hope bloomed in her chest. Maybe this child would change everything. Maybe Jinwoo would soften, love her, protect her once he knew. She left the clinic with trembling hands, clutching the ultrasound picture to her chest like treasure. That evening, Selina dressed carefully and prepared dinner herself. She even lit candles, determined to make the night special. When Jinwoo entered, his cold eyes met her hopeful smile. "Sit," she said softly. "I have news." He frowned but obeyed. Minji wasn't there for once. Selina felt it was a sign. She placed the ultrasound photo on the table. "I'm pregnant, Jinwoo. We're going to have a baby." For a moment, silence hung in the room. Selina's heart pounded, waiting for joy, for relief, for love. But Jinwoo's face darkened. "You dare." His voice was low, dangerous. Selina's smile faltered. "Dare? Jinwoo, this is our child." He slammed his fist against the table, making her flinch. "You think you can trap me with a baby? You think this will make you permanent?" Her chest tightened. Tears welled in her eyes. "No, I—" Before she could finish, Madame Kong entered, Minji gliding behind her like a shadow. "A baby?" Madame Kang's voice dripped with disgust. "This is worse than I thought." Minji smirked. "Smart move, Selina. But you should know, children don't keep a man. Especially not Jinwoo." Selina clutched her stomach protectively. "This is my baby. No matter what you say, I'll protect it." But Jinwoo's glare cut her to pieces. "If you think this child changes anything, you're wrong. You will raise it quietly, or you won't raise it at all." The threat hung in the air like poison. Selina backed away, her hands trembling, her heart breaking. She thought a baby would heal them, but instead, it deepened the war. That night, as Selina sat alone in the dark, she overheard voices from Jinwoo's office. Minji's voice, cold and sharp. "We need to get rid of her. She's too stubborn. And now with a baby, it will be harder to push her aside." Madame Kang's reply, "Leave it to me. Accidents happen all the time." Selina's blood ran cold. She covered her mouth, stifling a cry. They weren't just against her. They wanted her gone. She stumbled back to her room, locking the door behind her. Her heart pounded as she touched her belly. "They won't hurt you," she whispered to the life growing inside her. "I don't know how yet, but I'll fight. I'll fight for both of us." And in that moment, amidst the bruises, the betrayals, and the threats, Selina's pain hardened into resolve. She was no longer just a broken wife. She was a mother, and a mother would do anything to protect her child. The night after overhearing Minji and Madame Kong plotting her accident, Selina barely slept. She lay awake, hands pressed over her stomach, listening to every creak of the mansion walls, terrified someone would slip poison into her food or push her down the staircase. The mansion no longer felt like a home. It was a battlefield, and she was the lone soldier. But somewhere between her tears and her fear, a new fire lit within her. "If they want me gone, then I'll be smarter. I'll play their game, and I will survive." The very next morning, Selina started watching and listening more carefully. She moved silently through the halls, ears tuned to whispers. The bodyguards, maids, and chauffeurs all knew more than they admitted. Most of them were loyal to Jinwoo, but one in particular caught her attention. Hyun-soo. He was tall, quiet, always posted near her wing of the mansion. Unlike the others, he never mocked her or ignored her orders. Sometimes, when Jinwoo shouted at her in front of everyone, Hyun-soo's eyes softened with sympathy. One afternoon, after Madame Kong had thrown a glass of water in Selena's face for talking back, Hyun-soo discreetly handed her a handkerchief as she passed. Their eyes met, and for the first time in weeks, Selena felt a flicker of kindness. That evening, she found the courage to whisper to him, "Hyun-soo, do you think I'm safe here?" He hesitated, glancing around the empty corridor. Then, in a low voice, he answered, "No, you need to be careful, madam. The mistress and Madame Kong. They don't just talk, they act." Selena's stomach dropped, but she nodded. "Then help me, please. Not for me, but for my baby." Hyun-soo's jaw tightened. Finally, he said, "I'll protect you," quietly. And just like that, Selena gained her first ally. With Hyun-soo's discreet help, Selena began gathering proof of Jinwoo's double life. Late at night, when Jinwoo staggered into his office drunk or distracted, Hyun-soo would signal Selena. She would slip inside, her heart pounding and photograph documents scattered across the mahogany desk. Bank transfers, contracts with criminal organizations, deals tied to Minji's family company. Once, she even managed to record a conversation between Jinwoo and Minji. Minji's voice, "Once the investors are locked in, we'll announce the divorce. You'll marry me, and her image will be erased." Jinwoo's cold reply, "Good." She served her purpose. She can disappear. Selena's hands shook as she replayed the recording alone in her room. Her husband, the man she once thought was her protector, was planning her destruction with the woman he truly loved. But instead of breaking her, the truth hardened her resolve. "They think I'm powerless," she whispered, clutching her stomach. "But I will make the world see who they really are." Weeks passed, and the attacks grew bolder. One night, Selena found shards of glass hidden in her soup. Another morning, the brakes on her car mysteriously failed, sending her vehicle spinning before Hyun-soo managed to stop it. Each time, Jinwoo brushed her off. "Stop being dramatic. If you die, it will only be because you're careless." Selena realized then, he wouldn't save her. He wanted her gone, so she decided she would save herself. The turning point came during a private dinner Jinwoo hosted for international investors. The room glittered with gold and laughter, but Selena noticed the way Madame Kong and Minji kept whispering in the corner, their eyes darting toward her plate. When the waiter served her wine, Hyun-soo gave a subtle shake of his head. Selena's blood froze. She raised the glass to her lips, and then deliberately spilled it across the white tablecloth. "Oh, how clumsy of me," she said sweetly, dabbing at the mess. The investors chuckled, thinking nothing of it. But across the table, she saw Minji's smile falter. For the first time, Selena realized she had power, not physical but strategic. If she played her role well, if she pretended to be fragile while gathering her weapons in secret, she could outsmart them all. Later that night, as Selena packed away another set of photos into a hidden envelope, Hyun-soo entered quietly. "You need to leave, madam," he said firmly. "The mistress is pushing harder. She wants you out before your pregnancy becomes too visible." Selena shook her head. "Not yet. If I run now, they'll win. I need to expose them. I need proof strong enough to bring them down." Hyun-soo hesitated. "That's dangerous." Selena looked him straight in the eye. "I'm already in danger. The only way to survive is to fight." For a long moment, Hyun-soo said nothing. Then finally he nodded. "Then I'll stand with you, whatever happens." His words warmed Selena's broken heart. She didn't dare trust him fully yet, but for the first time, she didn't feel completely alone. The final blow of the chapter came when Jinwoo, drunk and furious, stormed into her room one night. "You think you're clever?" he snarled, shoving her against the wall. "You think I don't see you sneaking around? Don't test me, Selena. If you cross me again, not even your god will save you." Her body shook, but her spirit did not. She lifted her chin, staring into his dark eyes. "I may be your wife, Jinwoo, but I am not your slave. One day, you'll regret everything you've done to me. For a brief moment, something flickered in his gaze. Shock, maybe fear. But then he laughed coldly, pressing his hand against her throat before letting go. You're a fool, he spat and walked out. Selena sank to the floor, her hands trembling. But instead of crying, she smiled through her pain, because now she knew he was losing control. The tables were turning. The Kong mansion was unusually quiet that evening, the kind of silence that made the air feel heavy. Selena stood before her mirror in a silk dress, her baby bump round and glowing beneath the fabric. Her heart thudded with both fear and determination. She knew tonight was it. The night everything would end, one way or another. Earlier, Hyun had warned her in hushed tones. They're planning to move you tonight, madam, he said. Minji and Madam Kong. They've arranged for an accident. A staged car crash. Selena's blood ran cold. And Jin-woo. Hyun's jaw clenched. He knows. He approved it. For a moment, Selena's knees threatened to give out. The man she had once loved, the man whose tattoos had drawn her in on that dating app, had signed off on her death. But then a strange calmness washed over her. If they wanted to end her life tonight, then tonight she would end theirs. The Kong family's grand ballroom was filled with Seoul's most dangerous men. Mafia bosses, corrupt businessmen, politicians who pretended to be clean. Selena entered the hall beside Jin-woo, who didn't even bother to glance at her. Minji glittered at his other side, smirking like a queen. Madam Kong followed behind, her gaze like sharpened glass. Selena held her chin high, fire in her eyes. She had hidden the recorder in her clutch. Every damning word Jin-woo had ever spoken now in her possession. She had also arranged something Jin-woo hadn't expected. Reporters were outside, tipped off anonymously about a major scandal about to erupt. The speeches began. Jin-woo raised his glass, toasting alliances and power, his voice smooth as silk. Selena stood silently beside him, her hand resting protectively on her belly. Then Minji, drunk on arrogance, leaned into the microphone. And to think, Jin-woo once married. This foreign charity case, she sneered, motioning toward Selena. All for a headline. But don't worry, everyone. She won't be around much longer. The room erupted in cruel laughter. Madame Kang's smirk widened. Selena's pulse roared in her ears. Slowly, she stepped forward, her heels clicking like thunder against the marble floor. She reached for the microphone. You're right, she said calmly, her Caribbean accent rolling like music through the hall. I won't be around much longer. As your victim. The room went still. Selena pulled the recorder from her clutch, pressed play, and Jinwoo's voice filled the hall. Minji's company will handle the shipment. No one must know. If my wife suspects anything, silence her. Gasps filled the room. The bosses, the politicians, even Jinwoo's closest allies froze. Selena's eyes locked on Jinwoo's. You thought I was weak, she whispered, her voice trembling but strong. But I was watching. I was listening. And now, the world will know who you really are. At that exact moment, the ballroom doors burst open. Cameras flashed. Reporters flooded in, tipped off by Selena's secret message. Chaos exploded. Jinwoo's face twisted with rage. He lunged for the recorder, but Hyun stepped between them, gun drawn. The guards turned, weapons raised. Protect her, Hyun shouted. Gunfire erupted, echoing off the ballroom's crystal chandeliers. Guests screamed, diving for cover as bullets tore through the air. The smell of smoke and blood filled the room. Selena crouched behind a table, clutching her belly, her heart pounding like a war drum. She refused to scream. She refused to break. Minji shrieked, her glittering gown stained as she scrambled toward Jin-woo. Save me, she cried, clinging to his arm. But Jin-woo shoved her aside. You're nothing without me, he snarled. For the first time, Minji's arrogant mask cracked. Madame Kong, in the chaos, tried to flee. But Selena rose to her feet, her eyes blazing. You wanted me gone, Selena spat, her voice trembling with fury. You poisoned me, humiliated me, mocked me. Now watch as your empire crumbles. Madame Kong sneered, but before she could respond, one of the rival bosses, furious at being exposed, grabbed her. Your family brought shame on us, he growled. Her scream echoed through the hall as she was dragged into the chaos, swallowed by the very underworld she had once ruled. Jin Woo, blood on his sleeve, spotted Selena across the hall. His eyes burned with hatred. You ruined me, he roared, raising his gun. Selena froze, her breath catching. But before the bullet could fly, Hyun tackled Jin Woo to the ground. They struggled, fists slamming, guns clattering across the marble. Jin Woo snarled like a beast, his tattoos glistening with sweat. She's mine. She'll never leave me. But Hyun's voice cut through like thunder. She was never yours. She's stronger than you'll ever be. With one final strike, Hyun pinned Jin Woo down as police stormed the ballroom, sirens wailing outside. Reporters screamed questions, cameras flashing wildly. Jin Woo Kong, once untouchable, was dragged away in handcuffs, spitting curses. Minji shrieked after him, abandoned and disgraced. The aftermath was chaos. Arrests, scandals, headlines that would stain the Kong Empire forever. But for Selena, there was only silence. She stood outside the mansion as dawn broke, the first rays of sunlight warming her skin. Hyun stood beside her, battered but alive. Are you all right? He asked softly. Selena placed her hands on her belly, tears glistening in her eyes. For the first time, she whispered, I am. Reporters rushed toward her, but Selena lifted her chin, regal and unbroken. They wanted a broken foreign wife. Instead, they found a queen. Months later, Selena gave birth to a beautiful baby boy with her Caribbean curls and Jinwoo's sharp eyes. But unlike his father, the child would grow up surrounded by love, not cruelty. She left the mansion behind, choosing freedom over wealth. With Hyun by her side, she built a quiet life, opening a Caribbean Korean restaurant in Seoul that became a symbol of resilience. People whispered her name in awe, not as a victim, but as a legend. Selena Marisol, the black wife who took down the Korean mafia. And every night, as she rocked her son to sleep, she whispered the same words. They thought they could destroy me, but I was born of fire, and fire never dies.
Hello besties, in this story we learned that never mistake love for weakness. Selena's story shows that even when someone looks powerless, their strength can shake empires. She was mocked, betrayed and mistreated, but her resilience, courage and quiet fire turned her from a victim into a conqueror. Besties, never let anyone break you. No matter how much pain you face, strength, truth and resilience can turn the weakest moment into the greatest victories. Thank you so much for watching. Kindly like, subscribe and share.